All right, let's start here at the very beginning. Thunderslot, McLaren M6B, Peter Revson, number 52. This is from the Fuji 200 miles in 68, so 1968. So, just glossy goodness, all that metallic blue. So we've already got our quick slicks on here, so we've removed the rear rubber. So just what a great look at that car. Air intake scoop at the top. You'll notice when my specifications come up here, I've made a replacement. The specifications that many are listing are the specifications of the M6A without that scoop. It's another 5 millimeters added to that car when you have that scoop at the top when it comes to the height. Not that it's a concern to me, but when you start to handle, you know, whatever that said, Goodyear, I think was the logo on there, going to disappear rather quickly. Beautiful engine work detail on the back of the car. Just meant for speed, right? Meant for speed in the real world and in the slot car world. Thank you, Thunderslot. So, I've seen the specifications now, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to take our way through this car as far as initial work on the track, take you through some tuning, and hopefully a great result. All right, folks, Peter is ready for his maiden voyage. Smile for the camera, buddy. All I have done is basically put the tires on the bottom of it, made sure the entire car is functional. Had to make a minor adjustment there to one of the set screws, ensure that the motor wires weren't going to come out. Took all 5 pod screws and basically didn't tighten them, but I put them all the way back to the point where this would be considered a tight pod. Not slammed down, but I want to know exactly what the car does by itself. I've already noted that this side is closer than this side, and the body float is basically the only other thing I did to it, knowing what my other McLaren is set at. But because of it, this catches here, and it needs to be, this catches here and needs to be filed and dealt with a little bit. This side doesn't. I haven't even put any spacers in here. Again, I want to know exactly what this car can do. That was run at like 4.5 volts for like a half an hour, maybe longer. I was watching a show with my kids. Yeah, that's that. First time. I should have filmed this upright. Peter, we're amateurs here. Now I can't make a short out of this. It'll be weird. That's all right. Are you ready, folks? Let's see. Actually, I'll do one more thing because I already filmed this before and I want to show everybody. It's already tight in the rear end. Again, I haven't even put lube on it, but I know it's probably a bad deal with the camera, but watch. This is just my own hand power, and you can listen to it. It doesn't want to go very far, obviously, so I'm not going to be leaning on it or anything like that, but it's always fun to just see what happens at a baseline point. You can tell a lot from just pulling the trigger for a moment, and I start these Professor motor controllers if I know nothing about the car other than the torque and the RPM of the motor, and then obviously a history of understanding whether or not this is considered a performance-based slot car or not. We were discussing the other day, is it taboo to say the word toy about these? Any of these? They're all toys. Of course they are. It's the best part about this whole entire thing, ladies and gentlemen. All right, without further ado, the first time moved under control or power. Still got the twitchiness of that 21.5. I can't even follow it because I can't do this. I can drive this car on a track, any car, probably looking away from the track. But when it comes to holding a camera on a car and doing that at the same time, that's not a win. Anyway, it goes. I don't feel it binding or anything like that, but certainly it's braking hard and needs some lubrication, and things are just not where I'm going to have them with spacers or anything. All right. Enough of this experiment of me holding the camera. I'm not even running in the sixes, so there we go. The car's moving.
Yellow flag.
Anyway, well, I expect this car to potentially go for the track record. We shall have to see. 4.95 something, 4.96 something. That car's held it for a little bit. Scott Culp has a car that's held it for a little bit right now, I think, currently. That car is like, I don't know, 100th or 1,000th away from it. I can't remember. That car's held it before. Are you next, Peter? Break down. Go ahead and give it to me. That's right, we're breaking it down. I told him he could get out, but he insisted on staying put, so. We've got the front axle set up. Quite the bit of distance was able to be achieved in terms of pushing that front axle out wide. I'm going to stick with that guide for the time being and see what I can do with it. It's deep at the front, and then it has that Thunderslot arch coming through the middle of it, but what the heck, give it a try. Again, the pod is still tight. When I announced last time, I haven't messed with that. That's coming off. Probably either going to put an 11 back on or maybe even a 12. This guy right over here, he's sitting pretty with a 12 at one time, holding the track record. So 12:32 is probably, but you don't know until you know. I may glue those bushings in. I am not thrilled with the amount of movement that they have inside of the rear axle block. And gonna put a .005 spacer coming in from this side when we come back. Probably a .005 against the inside edge of that spur gear. And yeah, Peter's just gonna have to wait it out. He's just gonna have to wait it out right there. Well, everything had gone according to plan while Peter looked on, but now he's got to look away because he can't stand it. Then I'm going to tell him there might be a delay. As of right now, even though I turned what would appear to be an amazingly promising lap with the car out of the box in red, those bushings are, I mean, they might be zero tolerance as far as that goes, where NSR makes them zero tolerance bushings, and since there's a connection, albeit broken at this point in time, from NSR to Thunderslot, those might be zero tolerance bushings as well. But when you put the axle in there and you can't spin the axle freely when it's not lashed to the gears, it's not a good thing usually in the slot car world. So I'd love it, you know, comment if you want to and tell me, oh no, I checked mine when I took the gear lash out and my axle didn't spin, and I tell you, you've probably got just as much a problem with mine, and you're either overcoming it with whatever gearing you're using or other. But every one of my slot cars, front and rear axle, spins freely when they're not engaged with anything that would stop them. So that's a little bit of a disappointment, I will say. It's the first Thunderslot out of 3 that I've checked or tuned myself or retuned that's been a problem. So we'll see. We'll see what I come up with. But everything else is according to plan. We got a 12 on there. The front axle came out fine, as I described in a short. And I'm going to put some spacers in there, and I'll probably still give it a go. But yeah, that could have been a fluke that I overpowered that lap that I got in my red lane, and turned a decent lap. But again, it wasn't. It was still maybe at least almost 2/10 off from what a Thunderslot or a CanAm lap should be with an NSR or a Thunderslot. So, yeah. I can always order another pair of bushings. The car is brand new, so I shouldn't have to do that. But again, $2 and $3 parts that are sold for $3 and $4 alike. We have to have some grace and give grace to those that manufacture, as inherently these are not too high dollar. But this is a high-end car that I did not expect to put my axle in there and not find it capable of spinning freely. So, quick update here. I did the best I could. One tool that I don't have, because I usually just throw them in the trash if they're trashed when it comes to bearings and bushings, is a reamer, because that's overrated when these parts don't cost that much, in my opinion. So I use the next best thing, and while you shouldn't file brass, I mean, what am I going to do at this stage? So I probably can't do it with the phone in my hand, but you can already just, I mean, you can, well, whoops, you can already see by me putting it in there how much, you know, I don't think I actually took a shot of it before it wasn't moving, but you can see it's, with my finger, you can just see. I wouldn't have been able to do this. I wouldn't have been able to even do just that. Never mind. I wouldn't have been able to do that, but I wouldn't have even been able to do this without any force. This was so tight, and I found a defect, I believe. I'm trying to remember which way I had it in my hand. I found a big defect on one of these bushings. And again, these are not complaints. When you look at the quality of these cars overall, and we all know how fast this 21.5 is and the contents of this, you know, overall package, but, you know, everybody should know that not everything comes perfect. But now you can see I'm taking very little effort. You can see how easy it is. You know, I freaking took apart my Lola. I got so angry when I was messing with it, going, you know, I don't care if these are zero tolerance, you know, bushings, that just shouldn't happen. And of course, you know, that one spins freely, that one spins more than freely when there's nothing lashed with the gear. And so shouldn't have taken that, and you can see now that it spins. But take my word for it, you couldn't even do this without providing a lot of force. So it is what it is. And will these bushings, you know, are they perfect now? Hell no, I scratched the taillights out of them. But I'm going to use them, and I'm probably going to order another pair of bushings. And then we'll rebuild the rear end again. All right, here we are back in all connected fashions. No weight. I'm not even going to remove those magnet holder pieces with a Dremel tool yet. Basically, this is what you would consider basic tuning, not fine tuning, right? So we've got all the distance spread now. We've got a good bit of axle spacing going on, taking advantage of moving those tires and wheels out as far as they can go under the wheel wells. Down here, we've taken advantage by getting a couple of the thinnest spacers we possibly can put on either side, just outside of those bushings. Again, those bushings, one of those bushings was not in good shape at all, but I now do have freely spinning rear axle. Adjusted the set screws to where I wanted to. It's a very fine adjustment there. Be aware, I had forgotten that the Thunderslot set screws that come with the front axle, they're not oval point, they're flat screws. You can replace them if you want to. You have a much smaller window of opportunity for either being right or wrong, when they're flat set screws as opposed to being oval point. Plus, you know, oval point is going to have a smaller contact patch, of course. That's the whole reason why. 12, I don't really like plastic pinions. I don't mind plastic spur, but slot at 12 tooth, so we're 1232, so we've gone up in gearing, down in gear ratio number, right? 266 or 267, whatever you prefer rounding to. Obviously, we know that these are the quick slicks that we've been talking about. These are TS03 firms. And that's it. I might coat those. I can't remember. Maybe somebody can comment. I can't remember whether the Thunderslot front tires were inherently supposed to be zero grip tires. Again, I wouldn't imagine that they would be of some rubber shore that would provide, you know, legitimate grip. but those can always be trued or taken down, as some have shown, like Harry has done nice stuff where he's shown you that with a tire truer, just very gently, you can literally get rid of those treads and turn them into slicks, but then you can still coat them. But any kind of travel around the track after a little bit of time is certainly going to also create some of that, slickness. The pod, again, it's what I would consider just tight. It's not cranked down, but it's cranked to the point where it doesn't move. So I'm going to get a baseline with what this guy's got going on, with no weight, but all of that basic adjustments to where I believe the car is going to be. And then if I want to change the guide, sure, we'll take a look at that. Again, the Thunderslot guide is a very nice guide. It only provides that depth at the front third of the guide. Again, just a slick little design for certain reasons that are going on there. But I think the front of the depth is probably very close to a Slotting Plus guide that is my favorite, the SP101001 guide. So, you know what? I'll give it a shot. Why not? So, finally now, as we've been joking several times, Peter never got out of the cockpit, but now he's actually ready to get out there and take things for a spin. So, we'll do some track testing, and then I'm sure that we'll be taking the body back off, and we'll doing some adjustments. I can definitely see some weight going right there, and both of my other Thunderslots, easy for me to say, both my Lola and my other McLaren, they are just pod heavy. That entire triangle is completely filled with weight, but just because one car needs it, even if it's the identical chassis, doesn't mean that this car right here is going to need it just because that car has it. You've got to test. That's why we call it testing and tuning, folks, right? All right, well, let's see what happens next. And that time right there is with still significant problems. We've got body float issues still with 2 of the 3 body posts, and that's only 1 gram of weight added in the gooseneck. Peter's looking to make up some ground here. I think he's going to gain some ground, to be honest. I am still not happy with the way that these torque screws are going into the body. I've got some float issues in the body still, but I have added only 1 gram of weight in the gooseneck. Pod's still tight. Spacers all the way around. Lube. Yeah. Something like that. Something like that. That's expected to happen every once in a while. That is going to need some more weight in the car, as I expected. I don't necessarily believe it's a consequence of the guide. I think that would be a discredit to the fact that the front of that guide is still pretty deep. Still pretty deep from what I can see. But one never knows. So probably a weight thing there. I don't think I'm done adding weight to this car. I'm just trying to see if I can do better than a 5.26 at this point in time, having messed around with the float. This motor is still heavy on the brakes, much heavier than any of the Thunderslot motors that I've seen in their braking capacity in the past. Again, the motor's going to break in. Woo! Almost came out of the slot again right there. Now we're hanging in the 5.3s, which is, now we're at the 5.4s, we're nothing to shake a stick at. Believe me, these are fast times in red. These are pretty fast times in red, for sure. But I haven't even taken the edges off the tires either. I mean, just natural wear is going to help that too. And the CA003s, I think they are, firms. for whatever reason, the way the mold is, there's not as much flashing on there. Not as much of a sharp edge part than that flashing. Yeah, there was a good one. You know, I hit my spots on that lap. So 5.3. 5.3 is not bad. I need a couple more tenths to come off of this car. So it's time to start loosening things up. It's time to start loosening up the pod so we can see what we're playing with. Yeah, I'm not happy. I'm not happy with the body float in that one spot. The rear body float I've solved. No longer catching, but this is all a consequence of this chassis seemingly sitting too far this way. Those are the two major flaws that I found with this car. If you want to consider those major flaws or not, considering this car pretty much, you know, would beat, you know, any, you know, many other cars on the track as it is. But there's a little bit of plastic from the sanding the chassis to make sure we don't have anything catching anywhere else. It's still stuck there. That screw catches. You can see that it sometimes, you can see that this float on this side, but then on this side, I mean, you might even be able to hear that out loud, even though the air conditioner's on. That is definitely not recommended to be a point left like that. You want to work on that. The rear is solved though. So yeah, so let's come back over here and grab our T6 and give everything a little bit of a turn here. Probably immediately going to be going for strapping tape. There's a push and pull with loosening pods and not putting strapping tape on there to help that loosening of the pod remain smooth. Yeah, I can consistently drive it faster. I can consistently drive it faster now. So we're going to stop a second. Next, I'm going to go knock the edges off of those silicone tires. Then we reconvene. See what happened this time. I have loosened the pod up. I have finally fixed the one hole, I believe, on the right-hand side of the car as you're looking at it. Your left, my right. I think we got body float achieved now, finally. And the tires are, some of that edge knocked off on them. Oh, there you go. You can't hear in the background, but I just blew away by a half a tenth, the fastest lap so far. 5.21. Now we're getting there. Let's turn the volume up here just a fraction so we can hear what's going on. It's nice to hear that trackmate sound, right?
Yellow flag.
Yeah, it's easy. It's an easy 5.2 now. It's an easy 5.2. What we need it to be an easy
Yellow flag.
5.1. We need it to be an easy 5.1 because that's red. We want this car to get sub 5 second laps in yellow. We need this car to get sub 5 second laps in yellow if we want it to actually deliver on its promise. Keeping you thinking about yellow, still driving in red. Keeping in mind this motor is going to break in still some more. I've got the controller now a little bit punchier at 745, the brake at 745 because, man, the car is just braking really hard still.
Yellow flag.
All right, so there's your first 5-1. Probably part of that's on me learning the car and paying more attention to driving, but now we're starting to see it, right? If you paid attention at Hobbit Racing Park on the War Eagle River track, green is the slowest lane because it's the longest lap. Yellow is the fastest because it's the shortest lap. We have a lot of right-hand turns on this track, so you don't have any difference making up even though we have an overpass, so you don't get that European slot car difference where enough overpasses or at least a donut produces somewhat equal lanes. So if it's about a tenth to 1500ths, if I can get lower than 515, that means I can run a sub 5 in yellow. Albeit tweaking and making sure that I've got a balance between the needs of that car and the float. Because if we have the float might work in one lane, doesn't work in another, we got to find that balance, right? I mean, if you wanted to, if you really knew what you were doing in between race days or in between heats, you could go so far as to try and, know how your car should be tuned for each lane, right? You probably can run it more loose in yellow and tighter as you make your way out in green, more forgiving, right? Wider turns. But we don't do that. Nobody takes the time to do that. I mean, I shouldn't say no one takes the time to do that. I'm not known to do that. So I'm still almost coming off the hill climb with the two little kinks. I'm almost de-slotting. I can't quite push as hard as I want to. The car definitely needs more weight. This is just what I would call home course advantage, right? For any of you out there, you know the trickier spots of your track. Certainly club members come over here to tune cars. They know, so you can almost compensate for the car, sometimes the controller. But if I handed this car to someone and said, oh, it's a Thunderslot McLaren, just drive it, they notice right away that the car's too light, still too light. Like, these cars start out at like, what is it, 60 grand, 61 grand? I mean, that's just incredibly light in the first place, which is part of the advantage that you get in the instantaneous speed and takeoff power. But, there's more to this car. Right? It was 1132 out of the box, plastic. I've got 1232 brass now on the pinion. Got the 32, so I'm already taller there.
Yellow flag.
There you have it. Right on the button. 5.15. That means running a 5 flat is theoretically possible. And I haven't even gotten the weight right in this car. Thank you, Thunderslot. Okay. We're back. Strapping tape, because you know it's going to get used. So again, little bit at a time, right? I'm trying to see the increments, and I'm also trying to document to you all that a stepwise, a stepwise approach is going to show you that things are achievable. If you just think you're going to do everything you want, you won't know what made a difference, and then you might have to take something, well, off or undone, right? So we're so very close. Looks like I'm running at about, again, 730 and the brake and the accelerator. Want more than that.
Yellow
Oh!
flag.
I have to stop. Remember when I said I still only have a gram of weight in the gooseneck? Maybe if I can change the guide to a guide that I'm more comfortable with and I feel like I'm going to de-slot, it doesn't need any more weight. All right, as we left off here, I had just smoked out a 5.1 in red. It definitely still needs more weight though, because it's easily randomly de-slotting in certain spots.
Yellow flag.
Ugh. Wow. Okay. The car's getting used to me. I'm getting used to the car. I can't state this enough. There's barely any cars that you'll ever see on this track run a 507 in yellow, never mind in red. If this car, this could be the car. This could be the car. That's all I can say right now. This could be the car. Right before I turned the camera back on, as I forgot the camera was off, I had a random D-slot right there. Because there's a little bit of a ridge as you come off the hill climb, right where it says Hobbit. There's a bit of a ridge, and it can certainly throw you off a little bit. So I think it still needs more weight. But this is just magical stuff here from Thunderslot. Combined with my tuning, obviously. You've got to know what you're looking for to tune, but this is amazing.
Yellow flag.
It's the first time I've de-slotted with the car, outside of the car not being heavy enough and actually coming out of the slot itself. That's the first time I've actually de-slotted based on driver error. Easy with Peter. Well, very easy to run. Very easy to run in the 5 teens. Almost worthwhile to start playing around with weight inside the car. The car's just screaming down the track. I can make mistakes all over the track, if you saw that lap, and still run a 5.17. So, probably time to start messing with a little bit more of the weight and fine-tuning it, but these are the capabilities that I think everybody knows. I mean, everybody knows the cat's been out of the bag for a long time about these cars. Just great stuff as far as Thunderslot goes, and the livery just makes me feel even happier. So, yeah. But as you can see from the looks of things, we are on the verge, if not having already surpassed the track record. I'm not sure, but what you didn't see on camera was something I also anticipated in widening the stance with plastic front wheels. I wish I had had it on camera. it was one of those moments where I forgot, and I didn't even get the 4963 on camera. I plan on surpassing that number anyway now, which sounds crazy to say. I drove the front axle right off the car, came through the little kink by the monitor, and ironically the car stayed in the slot the whole time. But I drove the front axle right off of it. Front tire ended up here, front axle, another tire ended up on the Michelin signs, and it's pretty comical. I wish I had it on tape. Could have slowed that one down for you, but of course, classically, I didn't get it on tape. But let's try and blow through that 496. Yeah, I'm already hearing something that's not exactly thrilling. I think by putting the front tires back on the way that I did, I feel like I hear something rumbling. I hear something rumbling underneath here, so I may need to adjust the front tires. Shoot, these aren't even zero grips unless we're going to call what Thunderslot gives you as zero grips, but I hear a little bit of rumbling underneath that car now, so. Front axle set back in there, fine. I'll do a deeper review later, but I did something that, I don't recommend unless you have experience dealing with it, but I actually tossed the marginal amount of CA glue inside the hub of the rim where the axle goes in, and then I went back and kind of scuffed and scratched it to a point where I tapped the axle through on both of them, and now have them to the point where there's zero play. I can still move them if I want to, but they are now snugged on there. So you can see that everybody's good and spinning freely and getting the right point. But unfortunately, I'm hearing like a chatter and a clatter, which could have been a consequence of the way that these tires were put back on after I dealt with the rim. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe that 496 will have to be surpassed on another session. I'll try it. I can hear some. I hear something I don't like. We might have to pause the video. So I think it's just a consequence of me not having dealt with the front tires yet, and then putting them back on there and kind of squeezing them into place and whatnot. So we'll give it a little bit more of a go, see what we got. I'm running consecutive. I'm running consecutive sub 5 second laps over there, 4991, and you can still hear this thing. You can hear the front tires chattering along on there. So, goodness. Yeah. To say that this is a good tune is an understatement.
Yellow flag.
I gotta get rid of that. I don't like it. All right, in typical fashion to my excitement of the day, this series here continues, and I'm editing all together. I got so excited that I was back out here, and I didn't turn the video on. I just did it again, 496 flat this time. So the front tires are going to have to be dealt with, which is what's scary, because if I'm running sub 5 consistently, it's only going to get faster. And again, I'm not even convinced that it has enough weight in it, because there's a fluttering point when you hit those kinks, which is meant to slow you down in the first place, right? And it's got that Scott designed the track, there was just, the car's close to you, okay, front straightaway. There was just too much wide open action there. You needed to slow you down just a little bit back there off the hill climb because it's also a descent. And so, there's definitely some weight needed if you're going to still hammer it all the way through pull. Ironically, even though there are only slight lefts, two of the only four left-hand, if you want to call them left-hand turns on the entire track. So that little flutter, the car definitely wants to come up out of the slot, which is not surprising. Again, all of you that do this at home, whether you're on MDF or whether you're on a plastic track, you know where your pinch points are that cause D-slots. All right, let's see.
Yeah.
I knew it. Oh, I knew that was going to be the one, guys and girls. Sometimes you know before it's going to happen and you get so excited.
Yellow flag.
You get so excited making half of the lap that you just hope you don't screw it up through some of the easier parts of the track. Because trust me, this sweeper is a point where you can't, obviously in yellow is the tightest part of the turn. You can't just gun it. You have to let off the throttle somewhere around the Castrol or DHL sign, just a fraction. But, I mean, there you go. You just saw it on tape. As of right now, since the move, the resurrection of this track, as I've called it, the Warrior Order track at Hobbit Racing Park, you all just saw me blow through it right there. Peter Revson, number 52, McLaren M6B, Thunderslot, track record. You can't see it unless you close in on it on the YouTube video, but that's 4.948. So imagine now we're at 4.948 and the car might need more weight. And I haven't even done anything to the front tires yet, so thank you, Thunderslot. Fastest car I've ever tuned. All right, well, this may very well turn into my final thoughts as I was making my way through some of this. And I did realize, based on specifications, that at the end of the day, these are considered hard, slick tires, and it makes sense. And I removed anything that was really going to be in their way. And, I can always coat these, so that's fine. So really, ultimately, this comes down to a matter of whether I want to add more weight to this car or whether I'm dissatisfied with the guide, or if I add a little bit more weight, maybe I'll be satisfied with the guide. Again, I haven't even really adjusted the guide. I haven't even put a spacer in there, and the car's already got a track record. So that's a nice bonus feature for me. So we're gonna try and see if we can break that record one more time. And then we'll put this to bed, I think, for sure. But, this will be a fun little experience, see if I can't get in a little groove here. I haven't even really gone past about 745 on the acceleration profile. It may do better than that. Blowing past it.
Yellow flag.
All right, we're blowing past it. 4.93 now in 6 laps. I clean my tires real quick, and I have no idea why I'm walking over to the car and getting in the way of the video.
Go.
I have a bad habit of stopping down in that first turn when I do that and walk over there and get the car.
Yellow flag.
Let's go ahead and just do it right here. You know what I really want to see, everybody? I want to see a 4.8. I want to see a 4.8. I want to see a 4.8.
Go.
Not that lap. Oh,
Yellow flag.
Look at that, perfect. Perfectly, we're sitting on our side over there, Peter. Well, there's a 4.925. Almost every other lap here, I'm just, cars going. And there's no indication right now at this point in time that this car needs any more weight. That fluttering that was occurring is no longer occurring. I think that because we have some body float and some pod float, you know, I described that we were having a serious issue here with not being able to achieve any body float, and now you can see that is no longer an issue in any way, shape, or form. Easily body float is achieved in both directions, and that was some long time coming inside of there, and the way that the chassis was much closer to this side of the body where the front end comes over the top, and of course the strapping tape on here. We have a little bit of body float. You know, we're turned back a little bit, not very much, but I'll do a little bit more breakdown potentially of that if I haven't when we go back over to sitting down. But overall, I mean, there's going to be a 5. There's going to be a 5. There's going to be a 4.8 coming out of this without a doubt. So just whether you want to say best car, listen, I think all of us love, you know, many of our cars. Maybe some of us have a love-hate relationship with some of our cars that didn't turn out. But you know what? Best car, favorite car, okay, we can all talk about that all we want to, but you know what? This is my fastest car. It's not even a question. It's not even a question. Every single time I take it out, we keep getting faster. So, awesome stuff. Really, really awesome stuff. Yeah, thanks for following along. This is definitely one of those ones that I thought there was the potential for it. Definitely saw there was the potential for it, and we reached it. So thanks for taking that journey with me. Hobbit Racing Park. Until next time.